used for?
Right.
That's right.
They learned about this in Kevin Hart movie.
Have you learned the Pythagorean theorem yet?
No.
I know what it is.
So some of you are lying to me.
No, I don't remember. I learned that from my dad.
Kevin Hart knew what it was.
Kevin Hart. In what?
In, I think it's called Night School.
Oh, night school. Oh my god. I forgot
Yeah,
that was a movie. Basically, yeah.
Pythagorean.
Yeah, it's a store or something and it blows up. And he like spies and cars. And they used to go to night school. Shit is like whatever it's called, like JV or whatever. It's something if you.
All right, as you guys are writing this down,
What?
the main thing you need to know, all right, first of all, is this equation. And second is where the letter C could be called a different letter, different triangles. Could be called X, but C, the unknown, sometimes, has to be the hypotenuse, all right? Now, the unknown could be A or B, but whatever C is, has to go on its own side of the equation, like in this formula. Does that make sense? So, first thing you should always do, locate the hypotenuse in the triangle. How can we locate the hypotenuse? You know one thing about it. It is the longest side. But what if you don't know the length of it? What if it's called X? How can you find it in the triangle, Levi?
It's like opposite of the right angle.
Very good. Very good. Yep. So if you can find the right angle, here's the right angle. And this kind of sounds silly because most of you can see it, but when it's turned, some of you can't. All right. You ready for something real goofy? If you draw your right angle, it's like an arrow pointing to the hypotenuse. Wow, that was quite the reaction. I wasn't quite expecting that. Thanks, I just made that up. All right, let's do an example. Find X, give your answer in simplest radical form. What is the hypotenuse? Is it 2, is it 6, or is it X? X. So who can set up the Pythagorean theorem for me?
Wait a minute.
Levi.
2 squared plus 6 squared equals X squared.
Good. And does this work for every triangle or just right triangles?
Just right. Yes.
Very good. I know I've said it before, just to re-emphasize that. Everybody should have their calculators out.
Yeah.
How do you find X? How do you find X?
No, you don't have it. You can do it if it's 2X.
Square root of both sides.
Yeah,
right?
square root of both sides.
No.
Dude, it's not with your compass. It'll be C. It'll be something equal C.
All right, now notice it says simplest radical form. Now you could do your factor tree. You could do. Would you do 4 and 10 probably? Do we need to keep going with 4? You can.
If you want to.
Isn't this the square root of 4 times the square root of 10? Isn't that the same thing as that? Isn't that what we're actually doing? You can keep going, but what's the square root of 4? 2. Okay?
Oh.
All right. So, if you are uncomfortable with this, you can keep going. You could say, you could say 2 and 2, 2 and 5. And then I think the way you guys were taught, if you have a pair of 2s, you take a 2 out. No pairs, multiply. X is 2 times the square root of 10. Do you agree with that? Wasn't 2 radical 10, didn't it come from the square root of 40? What's that close to? Between what 2 whole numbers? What's the square root of 36? 6. What's the square root of 49?
7.
Isn't it between 6 and 7? So if they say write your answer as a decimal, you type in the square root of 40 and you get 6.32. Okay, question.
I was gonna ask that.
You're going to ask, did I answer your question then?
Yeah, like if it was a decimal or you put it in like that.
Yep, this said write your answer in simplest radical form. So you would have to write it as 2 radical 10. Thank you. Questions on that? Let's do another. First thing you should do, what's the hypotenuse in this triangle? 20. See if you guys can set it up properly.
What really happened? What 90-degree angle do you see? You built that one? Are you gonna build that one? No.
Jackson, what was your setup?
X squared plus 4G squared equals.
What do you
Beautiful. All right, real quick. Be careful with the order of operations. Okay? Is 20 squared minus 14 squared the same as 6 squared? Can I subtract 20 and 14? 20 minus 14. And then square that. No. You have to square them first, then subtract. Let's see. 14 squared. What's that? Like 196?
Yeah.
Equals 400. All right, 400 minus 196, we get 204. So the square root of 204 is going to be, when it's simplified, it's going to be our answer. How do we simplify it? Did you go 2 and 102? Thank you. All right. How about 51? What are the factors of 51, or is it prime? Isn't it 3 and 17? Double check me.
I forgot about that one. I forgot that you can.
But it looks prime. Looks could be deceiving.
I thought the one was
But did it get us anywhere? What's our answer? 2 radical 51. If it asked you as a decimal, you'd say 14.28. 14.28. It did not ask us for a decimal. I'm just saying. Sometimes it could. This is simplest radical form. Does that seem reasonable? Now, why would I ever think about decimals? Well, if it's a real life application, how tall is the tree? You probably would be helpful to have it as a decimal. Another thing, shouldn't 20 be the longest side? So if I know this is 14.28, I want to make sure that that's less than 20. If it's more than 20, I did something wrong. Okay. Application. The skyscraper, so here we're actually going to round. The skyscrapers shown are connected by a skywalk with support beams. Find the length of each support beam. Here is your emotional support beam. I don't know if there is such a thing, is there? If it's up real high, you could call it a skywalker, James.
You know Jacksonville. Jackson.
We need the accent.
I was in a town.
All right, now, I need everybody to listen. I've been kind of chatty this morning. I want to share something very important with you. Okay? Have you been taught in your calculator? I want to talk about two things in the calculator right now. Have you been taught how to keep a calculation going in the calculator? Here's what I mean by that. I literally typed in 23.26 squared. I didn't hit enter. Plus 47.57 squared. And then I hit enter. Have you ever done that before?
Yeah.
And then have you kept that and then don't touch anything? Second square root, like second, hit the square button and then second answer. Have you done that before?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see how, look at your, yes, okay. On this calculator, find the enter button. Everybody see it, or equals button. Below it and to the left, there's a negative button. But right above it in light blue, I bet most of you it's light blue, there's an ANS. You see, it's an answer button. Do you know what that, have you ever used that? Ooh, game changer. Okay. What if I want to, watch this, square root both sides. You don't want to retype in 2,803.932.5. And what if it went on forever? Okay. You can hit square root and then second negative, and it will put in this previous calculation under the square root. Does that make sense? Does anybody, do you know what I'm talking about? They're learning the second answer button.
I learned it last year if you had me in class. Are
They
they?
weren't all so lucky.
Is this honors?
Yes.
I'm looking around. I didn't have very many. Hey, there's one.
Do you remember last week, or maybe it was this week? I have no idea because of the snow day. Do you remember last whatever we talked about compounding rounding issues? You round an answer, use it again. You round it again. What happens to it? It's more and more and more off, right? You don't want me to do that to your grade. Okay? You don't want me to round your grade
That's a good example.
and then calculate your semester average and then round it again. Truncate. Ooh, you're 90 or 89.99. Let's call it an 89. And let's calculate. Semester average. Huh? That's how the school does it.
No way.
Yeah, evil truncation. All right, anyway. You want to use as many decimals as you can when you square root because that causes more error. Square rooting, you know how when squaring something becomes quite a bit bigger? Square rooting, if it's rounded too early, can cause quite a bit more error. Okay? So does everybody know how to use the second answer button? Okay, help someone near you. I need to talk to Mrs. Naples for a minute. Okay? Talk to someone near you. If you know how to do it, help someone close to you.
Not answered. What'd you get?
Why would I have
I'm not out of the same time. I'm not out of the same square.
What is it? Let me see. It doesn't even do it. So what if I just do this and then I square times 9? And then 7. Times 9.
Yes.
No, my parents pay like. I need to do this.
That's what I don't understand.
But I feel like
Oh my gosh, that's not funny.
There are 3 non-shared numbers, A, B, and C. It's literally 4 squared plus.
I didn't realize
And we get B squared plus, or no, B squared equals 4 equals minus 16.
Yeah.
44 minus 16 is it's 128. So B squared here.
That would be 28.
Equals.
No, you're square rooting and not squaring it.
Oh, that's
All right. Can I see your calculator real quick? I'm sorry. All right. All right. Can you guys please listen? I'm sorry we had so many interruptions today. I need you guys to really listen carefully. Listen. This what I'm teaching right now, like, it's gonna be used the rest of your math careers because things only get. You're gonna learn functions that grow faster and faster, and when you round, you're causing more and more error. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And my emulator that usually is up here, it's not installed properly. So whatever. Here's what if you want to follow along to the button, here we go. I'm going to go from the beginning. 23.26 squared. Don't hit anything else. Don't hit enter. Plus 47.57 squared. So on my line, it says 23.26 squared plus 47.57 squared. I hit enter. That's a lot of numbers with the decimals included. Do you agree? I don't want to write that down somewhere. I don't want to type that out again. Here's the shortcut. Does it still say that on your line? Second, to get the square root, so second x squared will give you the square root button. Are you with me? Second negative will give me the answer button. It should say square root ANS. Do you see that? Are you getting the right number? What are you getting?
52.
Then you didn't type something in along the way correctly, and we'll walk through it again. Did you get 52.95? And you agree this is the first time we're rounding in this problem, and it's the last step of the problem. That's the best case scenario. So x is 52.952 meters. But Mr. Westfall, I thought it said to run to the nearest hundredth. Yes, but remember, if I'm going to round to the nearest hundredth, I need to look to the next decimal to make sure I know what it is. So it's 52.95 meters.
What you have to do is oh, each? Oh, that's right.
All right, square root. Double check my answer. 2803.93. All right, is anybody still confused after getting help with that? Okay, let's try to do it. Now, if that's too many steps for you, you can write down the numbers. That's fine. Just take them farther than your final answer is going to need. Take them to the thousands. Take them to the 10,000s. All right? And then round the final answer.
I'm getting 0.
Okay.
That's pretty funny.
All right, I want you guys to try this one on your own.
Okay. You put X or X?
What is that?
Converse. I guess it's Converse. Well, I'm assuming it's Pythagorean triple, that means 3 sides. So I'm assuming it's like common sides you'll get as an answer for that. Hopefully I'm right.
All right, now I need you guys to freeze and look up here. Freeze and look up here. You can extend the same thing I just taught you how to do. You can extend to all sorts of different calculations. For example, let's say you want to do 289 minus 225. You can type that into your calculator, hit enter, and then aren't you going to square root that number? So then square root answer. Okay? Or you can just do the calculations. What is 289 minus 225? 64, right? And when we square root both sides, what's the square root of 64? 8. But it said to write our answer in simplest radical form. It is. 8 is the simplest radical form of the square root of 64. It was a nice whole number. It wasn't like 8 radical 5. It was actually 8. That is the simplest radical form. Isn't it kind of, we would never write this. Don't write this. But isn't it kind of disguised as 8 radical 1? I mean, that's simplest radical form. It's just write 8. Just write it. Don't overcomplicate it. Notice, we did not have to put our answer in simplest radical form. It was already done. All right? That is called, when all 3 sides of a triangle are whole numbers, it is called a Pythagorean triple. Okay? Pythagorean triple. And it sounds like a new sandwich at McDonald's. Three right triangular burger patties. Think about it. Possibilities around those.
No.
The Pythagorean triple.
I love Wendy's.
All right. Is this one of the fill-ins for you guys?
It's errors.
A set of 3 non-zero whole numbers A, B, and C such that it satisfies the Pythagorean theorem is called a Pythagorean triple. These are some common ones: 3, 4, 5. Of that triangle, 3, 4, and 5, which one do you think is the hypotenuse? 5. 5, 12, 13. Guess what? Which one's the hypotenuse? 13. Very good. What about 1, 2, and 3? Do you think 1, 2, and 3 would be a Pythagorean triple? How could you check it? Yeah, square them and see if it matches up with the Pythagorean theorem, right? It doesn't. Spoiler. All right, if you're done copying that down, do this one down here. Find the missing side and determine whether that triangle is a Pythagorean triple. Again, if you're done copying the notes, try this next one.
I don't know my multiple.
Yeah, so like you see how here says if c squared is greater than it, it's 7 squared. 12 squared.
All right. Help me out. What'd you guys get?
11.31.
You guys agree? 11.31. Yes? Now, it didn't ask us to round. It didn't say to write it in simple quadratic form. Just find the missing side. So if you solve, then you said 11.34. X equals 11.34. 31. Then we would say, no, this is not a Pythagorean triple. Not all three sides are whole numbers. Not all three sides are whole numbers. All right, we're going to have to spend a second day on this. One quick little note. This is probably, if it's not, it's definitely one of the top couple math equations of all time. All right, the Pythagorean theorem. Even if you haven't taken geometry, you guys walked in talking about that, you've heard it, you've seen it in movies, whatever. What movie was it called?
Night School.
Night School. All right, awesome. All right, and we'll talk also about how if you scale these up, 3, 4, 5 is a Pythagorean triple. Okay, you can scale them up. 6, 8, 10. We'll talk Monday how you can use these in real life. One thing I wanted to get you guys thinking about: would side lengths of like 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet. Here's what I want to get you guys thinking about. 1, can those be side lengths of a triangle? 2, would it be a right triangle? Here's the homework for the weekend. It's only half of what we would have assigned. Just do those ones. And I will take answers on this. Can 1, 2, and 3 be sides of a triangle?
Yeah, but they can't straight.
Yeah.
Use your imagination.
It might not be a right angle, but
That's what
Well, I know. I'm gonna give it a
You get home at 2. You get home at 2. You get home at 2.
Alright, someone can just turn in their quiz.
What?
And then Brian gets like
yeah, more like
So, no. Yeah.
okay. Okay, so 2.6 was
Okay with that? Do you need me to write that?
okay. That's
Also, if you are scheduling and you want to talk to me about a recommendation, okay? If you're on the fence about regular or honors, please talk to me. Right. That doesn't mean that's the only option.
Sorry, Tyler. I was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long, yeah, I haven't looked at your grades, I don't know, but as long as you hit the prerequisites of the grade and all that, I think you should be good. Okay. It's on the whole year too, so, okay. Did you take the square root of that?
I'm disappointed.
Can you do that in the calculator? It's like second, you know the square button, x squared, second square root. That's your answer. 11. Square root of 144 is 12. This is under 12. Yeah, if it doesn't make sense, let me know. Because what was your semester? Your grade? I mean, it was in the A range, wasn't it?
Did you recommend me?
Did you end up? So now you were on the fence. But
I think I put, let me check. I put love.